Hey everybody, I'm William Green, and these are my green pets. And today I want to share with you my visit to the Huntington Botanical Gardens in Los Angeles, California. I'm going to read to you some information from the website of the Huntington. It says, "Welcome to one of the world's great cultural, research, and education centers. A private, nonprofit institution, the Huntington was founded in 1919 by Henry E. Huntington, an exceptional businessman who built a financial empire that included railroad companies, utilities, and real estate holdings in Southern California. Mr. Huntington was a very, very rich guy, and he had an eye for fine things. And so let's go over to the orchid exhibit and see what there is to see. I heard about the Huntington actually from other orchid enthusiasts because they have recently acquired a collection of Paphiopedilum slipper orchids, and this is what I was there to see. So upon walking into the orchid house, the first thing I saw was this. I believe none of the plants were labeled, but this is, I believe it's Paphiopedilum parishii or parishii. And they had several of these, and they were just in full bloom with lots and lots of flowers. In addition to the actual flowers, I was really concerned with looking at the way that the plants were being grown. As you guys know, I'm always concerned with every little spot and speckle on my plants, and so it was interesting for me to look at these plants that are being grown by professionals and to see, you know what, their plants are not perfect either, so maybe I shouldn't be worrying so much about every little thing. As you can see, the plants were not labeled. They just had numbers on them or letters. And I would imagine that this is most likely to prevent people from stealing them. Obviously, some of these plants are going to be worth a lot of money since they were from a collection, a private collection. So perhaps they don't want people to know exactly which one is which. But it was interesting just to see, you know, the various stages of growth. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of incriminating myself here. I did kind of pick a little bit through the medium just to see what it looked like. Here it looks like just finely ground bark, not a lot of other stuff in there. But then some of the other plants were more in a mix like of perlite and charcoal and orchid bark. Once again, you can see that, you know, the plants aren't perfect. They've got some spots on them here and there. But you know what? Look at these. Look at all the flowers. These are very, very nice slipper orchids. Very nicely grown indeed. In addition to the slipper orchids, there were several others, including this one. Look what I found. Cattleya rex. Sound familiar? I've got a bunch of these seedlings, but I've never seen this plant in bloom until now. And I want to just share with you, this flower looks like it's either on its way out, maybe it hasn't opened up quite yet, it might be fading, but the lip, this is what I fell in love with when I bought that flask. I saw a picture of this flower, and look at the rainbow colors and the veining. And obviously different plants have different levels of color, some of them more intense, some of them more yellow, some of them more red, but just something about this plant struck me. I'm looking at the pseudobulbs and the roots here. And they've got it planted, they've got it mounted, which is, I've got a couple of mine mounted as well. So it was super nice to see this finally in person, and it just makes me look forward to mine blooming all the more. Alright, the slippers are what we're here to see, and this is a beautiful specimen of Paph Rothschildianum. It's got 7 flowers. I guess it'll have 7 when they all bloom out, but look how huge this thing is. I believe that it was Roth season at the Huntington when I was there because there were many, many different Roth flowers. You can see how large they are just compared to my hand. They're the largest slipper orchid. This one, I'm not sure. It looks like it might be the Tsinghua Dancer. It's a hybrid with Gigantifolium. And once again, here I am inspecting the leaves. Like I said, it was just a relief for me to see that, you know, Paphs, they don't have to look perfect in order to produce beautiful flowers and be considered healthy. I wasn't sure what this species was, or what this variety was. This one looks like a Roth hybrid with Delinati or Micranthum. I'm not sure which one. Maybe the Delinati, but it's got that lovely color. I think it's called Gloria Noggle is the hybrid name. Some spots on the leaves there too. making me feel better about my own collection. This one I believe is a Saint Swithin, if I'm not mistaken. Had lots of flowers. It was so nice to see some of these paths because obviously you don't see these a whole lot unless you go to orchid shows, and I had never seen many of these. You can see the mix down there. It's like little pieces of charcoal, perlite, finely ground orchid bark, and some good root growth here. I don't know how often they water these, but I think with that level of drainage, they probably get watered every day. Here's another one of the, I believe, like I said, I believe it's Parishii, but I'm not sure. There are a couple that look similar to this. Please correct me if I'm wrong, if you know the cross that we're looking at, or the species. This one reminds me of my Path Prime Child, so I think it's a cross between Rothschildianum and one of the sequentially blooming paths. And this one is, I believe, a white Delinati, an alba, or album. And I did get up there and smell it. Delinatis are supposed to be fragrant, but I didn't smell anything out of this guy. Looking at those beautiful purple leaves down there, and then check this out. The Huntington, they've got their own stamp in their pots. Pretty nice. This was called a Dutchman's pipe, and I just thought it had really funny looking flowers. It looked like a tree, actually. Here's some information about that. And then this was Angraecum. I did not know this species, but it was enormous. Look at the bottom right. You see the handle of a shovel. This plant was very, very large. It had several spikes. I'm sorry to miss the flowers because I bet they would be very big and very fragrant. Take a look at this mounted Oncidium. I'm not sure what species this was, but it looks like it might be one of the Mulier type Oncidiums. Had tons and tons of little flowers. I didn't detect any fragrance, but they were very beautiful, and yeah, just something unfamiliar to me. Hadn't seen these before. I mentioned that it was Roth season at the Huntington, and they did have several. I didn't get a whole lot of close-ups of the Roths, but I did kind of show you here the stem, how thick it was compared to my finger, and this one especially had just this beautiful red pouch. And then this one, I'm not sure if this is a Roth. It looks like it might be hybridized with something else, but maybe it's just my untrained eye. There's definitely a lot of variations in that species. I'm not typically into Phragmipediums, but I thought this one was quite nice. It looks like it might have a little bit of a Kovacii in it. Oh, and check out this one. This one is a cross between Rothschildianum and Arminiacum. I believe it's called Path Dalgoldii. And wow, the color literally was such an intense yellow that the camera couldn't handle it. You can see how it's getting kind of darker as I get closer. The color is absolutely brilliant. Head around the corner. The whole kind of orchid display area is a big circle, so we're kind of going around and seeing more and more plants as we circle the enclosure there. I think this one might be Primulinum, perhaps? One of the sequential bloomers. And then this is a bulldog type hybrid, I believe. These were also super nice. This reminds me of De Pearl, and this is a green Maudii type slipper orchid. These were actually surprisingly large. I couldn't believe how big they were. I did kind of get up there and smell, but you know, no, they don't have any fragrance to them. I smell most flowers just because you never know, you know. You never know what you're gonna smell when you stick your nose in a flower. Once again, I got in there and kind of lightly poked around to see what type of medium they were in, and these were in that small fir bark, perlite, and charcoal mix. Moving on to some of the other orchids that we saw, look at this. This is I believe that this is a Phalaenopsis giganteum. It is really large. I had to put my hand up here so that you could see. It was about half as long as my arm, the leaf was. And you can see that spent flower spike hanging down there as well. Well, from this area we actually move on to the cloud forest room, and this was obviously lower temperatures, high humidity, and in this room they not only had some orchids, but they also had some different carnivorous plants like this pinguicula or the butterwort. They also had several nepenthe species as well. And I really liked how they were set up because you could get down there and really kind of inspect the plants. Now you saw in my most recent update that I'm having some problems with my Stanhopea, and so when I saw that they had one just hanging there, I said, oh, I want to check this one out. And to be honest, it's actually potted very similarly to mine. It looks like it's in moss. It's in the same type of net basket that I'm using. The only thing that's different is that mine is in a bigger net basket with more sphagnum, so perhaps that's the problem. You can see that this is a smaller basket, which maybe maybe it dries out more quickly. Anyway, you can see it's got blooms coming on it. It's got all kinds of spent blooms as well. So for whatever reason, their Stanhopea is doing a lot better than mine. Here's a really nice display with a bromeliad at the top there, and the trees that were growing in this area were really nice because they were covered with moss, and they also had lots of different orchids that were covering them. Obviously the focus on education here, there's lots of different things for you to look at and learn about the different orchids. Not sure which one this one is, some kind of dendrobium maybe. And then this was a tree that was covered in little masdevallias and Restrepia species, and you could see how small the little flowers were. Very beautiful, very colorful, but that was my thumb there, so you can see how tiny they are. Here's a couple more that were even smaller. I like the way that there was moss growing on this tree, and then you could see how the plant's roots were just loving that moss, just kind of growing right through it. Like I said, none of the plants were labeled, so I'm not sure what the genus and species of the orchids are in this video. I'm just doing my best to label them based on my own knowledge and, from looking some things up. Here's a display with butterworts that I thought was amazing. I did not know that they were lithophytes. They grew on rocks. That was news to me. Alright, well that does it for the orchid exhibits. We're now going to look at some different parts of the garden, and we're going to start out in this North American bog garden with lots of beautiful pitcher plants and other carnivorous plants. Man, would you look at these gorgeous pitcher plants. Look at the veining. Aren't they pretty? These are my favorite right here. Look at those. Look at that. That beautiful top and that red throat. Those are my favorites. Love these. Native to southeastern United States. Check out these massive pitchers. Look how big they are compared to my hand. They're huge. Anything in there? Look at that color. Aren't they gorgeous? The United States does not have much in the area of orchids, but we have got the best carnivorous plants. We have got awesome ones. Check out this sundew patch. Would not want to be a gnat. Look at all these. Look really good too. Some of them in bloom. Lots of moss. Look how sparkly. Look over here, they got a little lab set up. You can learn about Venus flytraps. It's cool. They got this camera set up where you can adjust it, and then you look at the screen here, and it's got the different traps. Isn't that cool? Fortunately, it looks like most of these traps have been triggered. And like all of them, people just can't keep their hands off of them. They're too cool. They had view screens where you could look and see the mechanism and see how each of the traps works. And then there was a little table with magnifying glasses so that you could actually inspect each different type of carnivorous plant. And that's something that I really admired about the Huntington's exhibits, was the focus on education and making sure people knew what they were looking at. Moving on into some other areas of the garden, this is the Chinese garden. And I spent a little bit of time here just enjoying the landscape that's been created here. Look at the different layers of statuary, architecture, plantings, bushes, shrubs, trees, and water, and it all just comes together, and it's just wonderful. So this is the tropical garden at the Huntington, and I just kind of happened upon it, but wow, you get this almost like prehistoric feeling. You know, these are the plants that you see, that at least for me, I see in the florist or in the plant shops, and here they are growing for real. Now we seem to be in some kind of a palm garden, and gosh, just look at these palm trees. Aren't they beautiful? Don't they just have the nicest form? Just so, you know, I don't know if it's sculptural or, I don't know, palm trees. They're really, really nice. Look at this one. I guess they just look like fireworks. Just beautiful. Alright, and here we are in the desert garden here at the Huntington. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not really a fan of desert plants. Just not. But a friend recently gave me some insight into some desert plants, and it just kind of opened up a whole new level of appreciation for them, at least aesthetically. He said to me, we were actually in the conservatory in Volunteer Park in Seattle, and he said, "Don't you love how desert plants look like coral? They look like underwater plants." And as soon as he said that, I started looking around and I said, holy crap, you're right. You know, they look like sea anemones and and corals. And with this kind of new perspective on desert plants, I can see their beauty in a different way. They're not beautiful in the way that orchids and palm trees and, you know, lush. They're not lush plants, you know, but they are beautiful in their own way. Guys, thank you so much for joining me at the Huntington Botanical Gardens in Los Angeles. It's been a wonderful trip. I wish I could have stayed here longer. This place is just pure class. In addition to the gardens, they've got a library as well as an art collection. So if you're in the LA area, this is somewhere you need to visit. I'm William Green. These are my green pets. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.